Tyrone Bowman live. Welcome to the program on this afternoon. Welcome to the conversation. There's a lot going on in the world. There's a lot going on in the nation as a whole, and I'm going to take each story and bring each one in a separate video. I was going to somewhat do a long video, but I decided to bring each story in a separate video and address each story individually. For those of you who have subscribed to Tyrone Bowman Live, thank you for your subscription, and I hope that many of you will subscribe in throughout this program and even in the coming days and weeks ahead. Also, if you'd like to become a contributor and help me to be able to do what I do for Tyrone Bowman Live, and I really want to be able to do some significant things like get a proper setting and get proper equipment and etc. You see my Cash App on the screen. If you want to donate, it's $ Piexel4. That's it. That's all I have to say about it. If you choose to help, you help. If not, thank you anyway. And it doesn't matter, any donation, large or small. All right, let's get down to this story. And I'm somewhat disturbed about how the major media has been handling the murderer who, in broad daylight, murdered the former CEO of UnitedHealthcare. So, let's talk about this. According to CNN, their headline reads, and my headline reads a little differently. Suspect in killing of healthcare CEO arrested on gun charge in Pennsylvania, according to the New York City top cop. Well, this is the question. What has taken them so long to track down one man? And how did he get out of New York City all the way up to Altoona, Pennsylvania? I know where Altoona, Pennsylvania is. A man arrested Monday on a gun charge. Notice it says a man. A man arrested Monday on a gun charge in Pennsylvania has been identified as the suspect in the brazen targeted fatal shooting last week of UnitedHealthcare CEO Brian Thompson in Midtown Manhattan, according to New York police officials. Let's just put it in proper perspective. Luigi Mangonoin is a murderer. He's an outright murderer. He's not a suspect. He is a murderer. He murdered the late Brian Thompson, the former CEO of UnitedHealthcare, maliciously, intentionally, and brazenly. He's not a suspect. He is a murderer. Luigi Magnolia, 26, was found at a McDonald's in Altoona with a gun and a suppressor, quote, both consistent with the weapon used in the murder, close quote, New York Police Commissioner Jessica Tisch said at a news conference Monday, referring to a device that muffles the sound of a firearm. Authorities also recovered a fraudulent New Jersey ID matching the ID our suspect used to check into his New York City hostel before the shooting. Tisch said, and a handwritten document that speaks to both his motivation and mindset. NYPD Chief of Detectives Joseph Kenney said the document did not include specific threats, but indicated ill will towards corporate America. These parasites had it coming. One line from the document reads, according to a police official who has seen it. Another reads, I do apologize for any strife and trauma, but it had to be done. The document indicates the suspect acted alone and that he was self-funded, according to Kenney. The murderer acted alone. Here is a photo of this murderer here. In the caption, it says, Altoona police arrested 26-year-old Luigi Mangonoin, the suspect in the fatal shooting of UnitedHealthcare CEO Brian Thompson. New York City Police Commissioner Jessica Tisch said in a news conference Monday. So I'm showing you a photo of him from 2019, I think it said. Let me be sure. Get the facts. Yeah, it's a photo of him from 2019. So if you go from 2019 up until now, so this is a photo of the person that was arrested. What took them so long to find this murderer? Let's ask the question. Had this been a black man who did the same thing, it would have taken all this time to find him. They would have rounded up any black man that they found on the streets of New York City at that time. But let me make this a little larger. Let's just deal with it here. You mean to tell me they couldn't find him? How did he get out of New York City? Who helped him to get out of New York City? Who aided and abetted him? He didn't do this by himself. There are accomplices somewhere, and something's not right. Let's get back to this article. The arrest seemingly brings to an end a sprawling manhunt, but expanded beyond the nation's largest city and across state lines. Scrutiny intensified as investigators recovered and analyzed various pieces of evidence, including shell casings from the scene of the shooting that police said that had the words delay, deny, and defend written on them. The suspect was believed to have left New York City on an interstate bus, police officials previously said, after video cameras captured him entering the George Washington Bridge bus station on 178th Street, but not leaving. So why didn't they arrest him then? You know, why didn't they arrest him at the bus station? As I told you before, this is a common sense program. This program is not that difficult to understand. So I speak in plain English. And I speak in everyday language to everyday people, just like you and I. The murderer, quote unquote, was believed to have left New York City on an interstate bus. Mangione was arrested by the Altoona Police Department on firearm charges, the commissioner said. The weapon is a ghost gun, an untraceable, possibly 3D printed weapon capable of firing a 9mm round, Kenny said. The murder was picked up in Altoona, about 230 miles from the hotel where the shooting occurred on December 4 after a McDonald's employee thought he resembled the man in New York Police Department photos. And called police officials said Mangione was sitting there eating at the time, Kennedy said. And officials praised the tipster for speaking up. Kennedy said Mangione was born and raised in Maryland, and his last known address was in Honolulu. He had no history of arrest in New York, said the chief of detectives. In addition to the weapon and fake ID found on the suspect, just said police recovered clothing, including a mask consistent with those worn by our wanted individual. Notice how they are phrasing. Notice the phraseology. When they arrested Sean Diddy Combs, did they call him a suspect? No, they did not call him a suspect. When the U.S. attorneys had the press conference that I broadcast live here, they didn't say he was alleged. They didn't say Mr. Combs was a suspect. They called him a rapist. They called him a pedophile. They called him a molester. There was no alleged in it. And that's the sad thing about it, because we are always targeted and marked and verbally castrated in the press, tried in the press, arrested through the press, condemned to the press, convicted to the press, even before one has had a right to have their right to a speedy trial by a jury of their peers. You may all think that this program is cynical. I'm not being cynical, I'm being serious here. What took them so long to get this young man? It wasn't that difficult to find him. UnitedHealthcare Group hopes today's apprehension brings some relief to Brian's family, friends, colleagues, and the many others affected by this unspeakable tragedy, a spokesperson said in a statement. We thank law enforcement and will continue to work with them on this investigation. We ask that everyone respect the family's privacy as they mourn, the spokesperson said. Well, you can be sure that there's going to be a lot of digging into the background of the former CEO of UnitedHealthcare. Who is he? Why was he targeted? Where was his security? Why would an important person like that be roaming the streets of New York City by himself without any security detail whatsoever? Something is amiss here. Something is not adding up. And no matter how much people try to cover stuff up, try to get around it, and try to pretend that there's nothing more to this story, yes, there is. There's a lot more to this story. And it will come to the surface. So here are some other key developments. Still missing is an electric bike. The murderer rode toward Central Park after the shooting, according to surveillance images released by authorities. Divers previously searched a lake in Central Park for the weapon used in the shooting, a law enforcement official told CNN. A partial fingerprint and DNA recovered early in the search for the murderer have so far not yielded matches when compared against law enforcement databases, according to a law enforcement official. The fingerprint was recovered from a purported burner phone, thought to belong to the individual, and the DNA from a water bottle and energy bar wrapper the murderer is said to have bought. A backpack believed to be the murderers was recovered Friday in Central Park. A law enforcement source said it contained money from the Monopoly board game, a law enforcement told CNN, and a Tommy Hilfiger jacket. Law enforcement officials briefed on the matter said. Authorities had known what the individual looks like, but not who or where he was. Over the weekend, they released new photos of him in the backseat of a taxi and wearing a jacket while walking on the street. In both, he wears a hood and a face mask. The public, too, had seen the murderer in surveillance photos and videos, including one with him pointing the weapon at Thompson's back. A determination of the suspect's identity had been expected to come sooner, former FBI profiler Mary Ellen O'Toole said before Monday's developments in Altoona. I'm thinking we're going to know who this is within a matter of a few more days. In fact, she told CNN, he's completely outnumbered with that kind of manpower behind the efforts. They're going to come up with the information that identifies him. He was already identified from the rip. And a flimsy gun charge is not going to work. Authorities would have hung on the fugitive's missteps, expert says. The ability to stand up against that kind of an investigation, one person can't do it, no matter how arrogant you are, O'Toole said. You're bound to make mistakes. Some of the murderous actions, such as putting his mask down on camera and leaving behind inscribed shell casings that point to a motive. A burner phone and a partial fingerprint on a water bottle only added to the clues left behind for authorities. Police also traced his movements before the shooting via a Greyhound bus originating in Atlanta and bound for New York City. The thing that works against the shooter is that law enforcement will get better, but the shooter can't go back and undo what he's already done, O'Toole said. So that statement right there tells you he's not a suspect. They consider him to be a murderer. And they have to treat him as such. Bail must be denied. If they denied Sean Diddy Combs bail 4 times, he should be denied bail. He should not be allowed to roam the streets of New York City free on bail pending trial. Right is right. The shooter appears to have perhaps only practiced such a killing before, rather than being an experienced assassin, Tool said. Leaving shell casings or monopoly money behind for authorities would not typically align with the actions of a killer who wanted to blend back into oblivion, she said. Police continued to look into whether words found on the casings may point to a motive. A 2010 book circulating the insurance industry is titled Delay, Deny, Defend, a common description of its tactics. But what difference does it make? Whatever his motives were, he did what he did, and he should be charged and found guilty. That was an assassin that occurred in New York City. It was heinous. It was terrible. After several days of evading capture by the FBI, New York Police Department, and other agencies, the psychological pressure of being on the run and the focus of a widespread search could have led to errors, O'Toole said. You know, I hate when these so-called experts speak. It would be absolutely overwhelming, and there's nothing that he can do about it. Okay, they're just being redundant. Bottom line is this. If this had been anybody else, they would have found him that same day. All this massive manhunt, a waste of city's resources, and allowing him to get out of New York City, just trying to treat him with kid gloves, and not dealing with the hardcore point of calling him an outright murderer, which he is. You cannot sugarcoat it. You can't placate this. You can't pussyfoot around it. You can't get around it. The man is a murderer. A cold-blooded murderer. And he must be treated as such. And I will keep you developed on this ongoing story here. Never surrender, never quit.